Peace and love. Assalamu alaikum. This is Spica, the Mother Star, the Mother of Justice. Today, I'm going to be talking about peaceable possession. I was asked to make a video regarding, property, land, right of claim, and things along that nature. So stay tuned while I go through various aspects of property, land ownership, and anything that falls underneath that scope. So I'm sorry I was disconnected off of this blog talk thing. Anyway, just give me some time so I can get this back on. Great. Now check me out. Let me get back to this because I was disconnected from the blog talk, but I'm glad I'm recording it via webcam. Now, I'm going to get back into this covenant because a covenant is a contract, agreement, undertaking, commitment, a guarantee, a warrant, a pledge, a promise, or a bond that you heard the saying, my word is my bond. So basically, no one can come in and disturb your peace while you have possession of the property. So when conducting an open hostile takeover of land and property, we must go into the words and their meanings. We got words like herediments. And herediment is any kind of property that can be inherited. Herediments are divided into corporal and incorporeal. The Latin word for herediments or heredity, which means inherit or an heir. So in my particular story, my family owned Earl Navy Base. We owned towns in the state of New Jersey. And when the state of New Jersey incorporated in 1787, sometime thereafter, they come to my family trying to get my family to turn over title in exchange for some deed or waiving their rights as heirs to this land and barring every heir. Like, I have the documentations from the court. They got so many names of our whole bloodline on the paper. And yes, I found my connection to it through my grandmother. They tried to make them sign these deeds. They told us stuff like, oh, we're not going to cut down trees. They cut the trees down. They did all these different things. However, this deed thing is not what it's hitting for. It doesn't mean that they own anything. They basically tricked a lot of my ancestors and family members into thinking that they gave up rights to some land. In reality, here I come to save the day. Like, I started out in Newark, New Jersey, claiming our first peace back and went through war. Because in reality, you go through war. And even though my ancestors shed blood and died protecting this land, they made it easy for me to write it on paper. Do that on paper. And it's very difficult. So I definitely give honors to my ancestors for the blood that was shed and the fact that you paved my way to make it easy for me through paperwork and some other things. So that's something that you need to think about when you are going into the mind state of wanting to claim your land back. Is you got to think about our ancestors gave their life for this. And you got your ancestors' blood pumping through your veins. I know I do. Sad. So let's talk about. Let me see what we're going to talk about. I put a little note here to let everyone know when you're dealing in possession of land and property, it's important to command peaceable possession and quiet enjoyment on your paperwork. That's something that is a must. It must be on the paperwork. because when I get into some of the aspects of what go on these papers later on, you'll understand. So we started talking about words and their meanings, and we talked about herediments and inheritance. This land that I'm sitting on is my inheritance, and it's an It's abundance. We got fruits, vegetables, natural resources, and things along that nature. Homes just sitting here. There's no reason for anyone in my bloodline to not have a place to stay. All right, great. So I'm reconnected back, and please excuse me for the technical difficulties. We are at the end game of a Mercury retrograde, so I'm not surprised at all. All right, now, so let's get back into after herediments. We have the word corporal herediments. A corporal herediment is tangible. It's an object that can be seen, handled, and is confined to the land. So if you got a tree that is in between your property and somebody else's property, that is corporal herediments that, has to be determined who is the rightful owner of this so-called piece of land that this tree is sitting on. So measurements and things like that got to be done. Corporal herediments are materials such as coal, timber, stone. A house, a building, a structure are common examples of this type of herediments, which they will be called fixtures in the land. 3. Incorporeal herediments are intangible rights, which is not visible but is derived from real or personal property. An easement is an example of a herediment, since the right of one individual to use property over the other right. So when we start talking about easements, traditionally they're permitted kinds of uses limited, meaning if there's a lake on your property, your rights to using that lake or stream, those would be considered easements. The airspace, things like restricted airspace, the air you breathe, the air above your property, or things beneath the soil, because the water runs in the soil, it runs under the ground. So it's important for you to claim when you're having possession of something, the as above so below, the air and the soil. Okay. Tenements. When you start talking about tenements, we're talking about freehold interest in things immovable considered as subjects of the property. A freehold estate is a right of title to the land that is characterized by two essential elements: immobility, meaning that the property involves either land or interest that is attached to it, that or whatever that has derived from the land. Say you have farm, cattle, things like that. Sorry, let me check this back. Okay, great. So now that I'm reconnected or whatever, we're going to talk about, there's 3 types of freehold estates. We started talking about the freehold estate thing. We got fee simple, fee tail, and a life estate. In my bloodline, we held our property in fee simple, which means a permanent and absolute tenure of an estate and land with freedom to dispose of it at will, especially in full fee simple, absolute freehold tenure, which is the main type of land ownership, which I'm not really, I don't know, I'm not knowledgeable enough inside that, but I am knowledgeable in fee simple because that's what I know. Rights of possession in law is possession and control, like You have to be in control of what you possess. So if you have control of this property, meaning who comes on it, who goes off it, maybe you are renting the property, you have full control and access of this property, every part of it. Okay? A person intentionally exercises their control in all cases to possess this property. All right, so that's important. Exercising control over the property. Sometimes possession don't always mean ownership, though, because I use the word steward in the beginning, which I'm gonna go into what stewardship is in a minute. When we start taking it to a spiritual and religious aspect of possession, because this is a spiritual thing. Before I take it there with possession, I'm going to discuss biblical references that one might want to use, because you can't do anything without your Lord. It's important for you to, use the mighty names of your Lord. Or you might want to use what your Lord says inside his holy book. For instance, in Leviticus 25:23, the land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for you are strangers and sojourners with me. And again, sojourners and strangers are very key elements when you start talking about land. Okay? Leviticus 23:34. But the field of the suburbs of the cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And in Psalms 24:1, the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. 1 Corinthians 10:26-28, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So even inside the holy book, the Quran, Allah says himself that he makes a person an inheritor of the land. So inheritance of the land is only through your Lord. Okay? That's important. And with that being said, yeah, I might be talking about biblical texts, but Allah is the owner of all the books. I wasn't there, when they were translating certain things, but I feel like this is sufficient enough to make references for land and its ownership and the rights of selling land and things like that, because can't nobody truly sell something. The earth and everything in it, our Lord is the possessor of it. So you are using this. You are a steward or custodian of a piece of land that was given to you to use while you're here, because when your soul is called back, you cannot take this land with you. So one of your family members, an heir, has to inherit it after your death. That's important for people to realize if you start dealing with these battles going hard with the corporation, a fictitious entity, trying to claim ownership of certain aspects of the land or property right. I want to get into the maxims of law when dealing with possession and land. Okay, we got the maxims of law, which is basically common sense. I'm going to start with saying that what belongs to no one naturally belongs to the first occupant. Something for you to think about. If nobody was there before you, it belongs to the first occupant. Number 2, possession is good title where no better title appears. So these people are running around here, the banks, talking about they own this property. They done did so much mortgage fraud. They don't have no title, because you got things called action to quiet title. It's a whole nother way that you can go into court and put in an action to quiet title. Okay? Because the title has clout. Okay? Long possession produces the right of possession and takes away from the true owner his action. So if you abandoned your property and somebody else is over there using it, and your behavior shows that you do not own it, but the person who has been using it shows behavior that they're the owner, long possession produces the right to possession and takes away the true owner in his action. Right? Possessor has right against all men, but him who has the very right. So if somebody really comes up and is the true owners of that land, for instance, if I want to go over to where my family owned cities that we call Macedonia, which had other cities involved in it, I am a true heir. I can go over there